Relieving Americans of their financial and credit card debt still seems to be a troubling and persistent problem across the country. Most Americans have some level of credit card debt. According to a recent Clever real estate survey, it found that 3 in 5 Americans, or 61%, are currently in credit card debt, owing an average of $5,875. In addition, 23% of people say that they go deeper into credit card debt every month, and 14% of people say that they missed at least one credit card payment last year. Furthermore, the survey also discovered that nearly half of Americans, at 48%, rely on credit cards to cover essential expenses. This is more common among the younger generation, with 59% of millennials admitting that they use credit cards to cover everyday expenses, compared to 29% of their older counterparts. And finally, 28% of Americans believe that it'll take them at least 5 years or more to get out of credit card and financial debt. There is a silver lining, however. 49% of Americans say that they believe that they can get out of credit card debt and other financial troubles within the next year. 11% believe that they'll be able to pay it off within the next 10 years. And finally, only 6% of Americans believe today that they will not be able to get out of debt. My friend Jason Saltzman is committed to helping people get out of financial debt and find their way to financial freedom. He's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Relief, a transformational and transformative platform which is revolutionizing debt management for everyday people. He's got 2 successful exits under his belt and more than 20 years of experience mentoring entrepreneurs in entrepreneurships, in startups, and everything in between. His passion lies in empowering entrepreneurs and others to thrive in the world of business and innovation. As the co-chair of MIT's Reprogram, he's reshaping the way we look at entrepreneurial ecosystems. And he joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Absolutely. So, Jason, my friend, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm super excited to dive into your experience in entrepreneurship, my friend. Great to see you, and happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday to you. I'm excited to get started, Kevin.
Absolutely. Now, Jason, I'm curious to ask you about, as we enter into the holidays, my friend, I wanted to start with a festive question, and I'm wondering what's on your holiday wish list this year, my friend?
Well, I haven't put much thought into a wish list. I put thoughts into New Year's resolutions more than holiday wish lists.
Sure. So what's one of your New Year's resolutions this year, my friend?
So thanks for asking, Kevin. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this over the past few weeks. And, right now, I'm in the process of raising a new round of funding for my company. And it happens every so often, a business needs to raise capital or do something to keep it going. And it's an exciting thing. It's growth capital. It's an exciting thing. We're growing as a business. We're helping more people over and over again. But when it comes to fundraising, it could be a very overwhelmingly daunting task. And typically, when I go into these fundraisers, I have a lot of anxiety and I'm very anxious, and it makes me feel not good. And my New Year's resolution is I'm going to try to be nicer to myself and try to enjoy the process more, because the end result is never guaranteed, but the journey that you're going through right now you're doing it, right? So I'm going to try to find joy in those moments more, so I treat myself better, because I find myself getting overwhelmed sometimes and it's not fun. So that's what I've been meditating on and thinking about.
Well, I always say the road to prosperity can't be paved without a vision, right? Absolutely.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I'm also curious to ask you, Jason, earlier this year, our friends over at Yahoo Finance and the Real Clever Real Estate survey found that 61% of Americans are either in financial or credit card debt, my friend. So I'm wondering your thoughts on how we get Americans out of debt, my friend, and how we can make sure that it can be sustainable as well. What are your thoughts there?
So that's a great question, Kevin. And ultimately, there's a lot to unpack in an answer when it comes to such a massive issue. Right now, 1 in 3 Americans are falling behind on their bills, right? And so when it comes, and credit card debt is at an all-time high, as well as delinquencies have been going up year over year for a very long time. So this is obviously a massive problem. And historically, debt's never gone down year over year. It's always gone up. If you look at the 5 and 10 year and even 20-year macro view of it, and it's a really big problem in America. And I often look at why this problem exists in two parts, both systematically, like what's going on in our country today that allows us to get into such debt, right? So you have the credit card companies that target you, they market to you at a young age, they sell you sophisticated products right when you're old enough, and they're very complicated products that are offered to you in a very simple fashion to make it enticing for you to take these things out right at the time where you're just starting to get your stride in life. You turn 18, you can vote, you're going into the market, and now you look around you, which goes into the second problem, which is, I believe, is a major cultural issue we have in the United States, which is wanting things that we can't afford, trying to keep up with the Joneses. I saw, this person has something I don't have. I can't afford it, but now with this credit card, I can afford it. Use your credit card. We've given it to you. It's a better way of life. And the problem is that many Americans, because of these two things, are tricked into a situation of compound interest working against them, right? What people don't understand is that every time you make a minimum payment on a credit card, you're really not cutting into the balance that much. And all of these fees that are associated with these cards are compounded on the amount that you didn't cut into the principal, which makes your debt go up every time you're making a minimum payment in most cases. And so this is a sophisticated issue that has simple channels to it, So that's basically where the problem, how we got to where we are today. Now, to make it to make systemic change, there not only has to be more accessible tools for people that have gotten out of debt, it starts before you actually get in debt. And I would argue that we need to rehaul our educational system to in a mandatory way to include financial education as early as our educational system would allow it. And I always say the same thing, Kevin. If you could think back to elementary school or high school, you're taught at a very young age things like how to dissect a frog, but you're not taught how to use a credit card, which is definitively something you're going to do all the time. So you should know how to use it properly. I believe that it should start there. We need access to better financial education. And then the aftermath of that is to use technology and modern system management to help people get out of debt more every single day. And that's what we hope to build with the company that I started with my partners. It's giving people access to tools that can get them out of debt in a very simple and accessible fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, you describe yourself as an entrepreneur and thought leader who's dedicated to creating a meaningful impact through innovation. So what does that mean in life and in business? Business, my friend, what does that mean to you, buddy?
So, Kevin, I think if you had the mind of an entrepreneur, you could walk into something and think about how to make it better. And I think entrepreneurs share that. Whether or not you go into a restaurant and you look at the systems that they're using and you're like, oh, there has to be a better way. Or, think about before Amazon, how long it would take you to get your packages. I mean, it's crazy to think about a world where Amazon didn't exist, but without Amazon, we wouldn't be able to get packages, and our shopping was a much different experience. They made that better. So the way that I think about these things is, what are the biggest problems that I see that are right in front of my face, and I could use my time and resources to solve these problems. I was introduced to debt, consumer debt, very early in my career, and it's really never left the forefront of my mind. It's just a matter of having access to modern day tools and new innovations to make it more accessible for people. So I believe that if you look at a problem very deeply and you have a lot of passion in solving that problem, you can start to think about what you can use that now to make the problem solvable in an easier way than it's being solved right now. Or maybe it's not even being solved at all. But that's what I mean by those statements. And thank you for asking that question, Kevin. It's a great one.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my friend, I want to hear about relief, because I know it's the revolutionary way that you're contributing to helping people with their debt management, my friend. So tell me about the platform and what makes it so fabulous, my friend.
Well, so Relief is the first app. It's the first self-service app that helps people that are behind on their bills. So right now, if you fall behind on your bills, for you to get help, you have to call up one of these companies that charges a fortune for them to help you. So our thought process was, if we could automate and make the solutions very simple, and we could make it accessible by making it very cheap and affordable to consumers, it makes it that much more accessible for everyone that needs it. So we did it, and we executed the first of its kind. And we launched about 6 months ago into the open market, and we've gotten over 65,000 users that represent over $3 billion worth of consumer debt that has been enrolled into the platform. And now we're helping thousands of people save money on their debt every day now.
Well, yeah, that's fabulous. And My friend, as you know, we're right in the middle of holiday shopping season, and I'm wondering your thoughts or best pieces of advice for consumers who are holiday shopping today about the importance of financial discipline during the holidays and not spending amongst or over your means, my friend. What are your best pieces of advice when it comes to spending during the holiday season? What are your thoughts there?
Well, so Kevin, I think it's a wonderful question. First, because we deal with thousands of people that have gotten into overwhelming debt. And every time these people make a purchase, they're optimistic when they're making that purchase. They think they could pay it off and they use their credit cards, and these credit cards have monster interest rates attached to it. So I would urge you, if you don't have the cash, don't do it. It's not worth it. You don't want to end up paying for something 5, 10, 15 years down the road that you bought today and compounding the cost. Also, I would stay away from store cards. Store cards are a gimmick. They're set up to sell you. They offer you 10% off your purchase right now today. But the systemic effects of that is using that financial instrument that they've sold you at that counter to get you more and more debt. So I would avoid store cards and don't buy anything that you can't pay for in cash.
Yeah, that's very good and practical advice. And building on that concept, Jason, I'm wondering your definition of the whole concept of financial clarity and how we can achieve financial clarity as both consumers and entrepreneurs. What are your thoughts there?
Well, Kevin, my thoughts are that I think that it's not just a matter of math. It's a psychology attached to money. The way that I look at financial health is much the way I look at just everyday healthcare, where you have to incrementally make good decisions for you to see the long lasting effects. So, in other words, if you want to lose weight, you're not going to lose weight in a day, and there's no real secret to it. You just have to watch your calorie intake and exercise as much as you can to be healthier. I look at it finances the same way. It's a series of habits that you make over a long period of time. And it starts with you having the right psychology when it comes to money, right? Number one, stay away from credit cards. Anytime you're paying exorbitant interest rates, 20%, 25% interest rates, you are using your hard-earned dollars to pay for banks. So avoid these things at all costs. Don't overspend. Very simply put, because we don't have 2 hours to talk, make sure that you're spending less than what you're making every single month. That should be your goal. And any excess money that you have left over, there are many different ways that you can use compound interest to your advantage. Putting it into an index fund, or I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't want to give you, complete. I don't pretend to be a financial guru. I just see the other side to it with thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that have got themselves into debt. So I understand that side of the coin, but there's so many optimistic things you could do when you could break the pattern. So start small. Better health and better financial health starts in increments. Start today and start by not using those high interest credit cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I know that one of the reasons you got into entrepreneurship is for the mentoring aspect of it, my friend. I know that you've spent over 2 decades mentoring entrepreneurs, and you've also had success when it comes to business exits, my friend. So I'm curious to ask you about mentorship and scaling a business and how those are interconnected in your view. What are your thoughts there?
Thank you, Kevin. So, well, I often say that I like to help people with their problems because it gets me to stop focusing about my problems. So mentoring is a really good way of helping people where I don't have to completely focus on what's going on in my life. and I'm very passionate about taking the experiences that I've learned over my career and giving that to somebody that hasn't gone through those stages yet. And it's different for everybody, right? So, but for me, it's a pretty awesome feeling to be able to help people when they're going through some of the most trying times in their life building their businesses. So I love being there. So I've been mentoring for Techstars for over a decade, which is an accelerator program across the country and across the world. And I love working with these early stage founders. I've had a class at Florida International University where I sat on the foundational board, and I help students craft their ideas into reality. I love getting into that. I created a class called the Entrepreneurial Mindset, which helps people develop the right mindset when it comes to getting a business, because it's not just about the successes. It's about understanding what you're about to get into. And it's going to be a bumpy ride. You're going to be there for a while, so you got to get your mind right. And I love talking about that. And I've been quite fortunate with success in life, having a few companies that have been mildly successful. And it hasn't been easy. I've had a ton of companies that didn't work out. And the pathway to success is never strictly linear. It goes up and down and all over the place. And I'm still here. I'm still building. I'm still doing it. So I'm in the grind with all the other founders. And but I've had a level of success that has allowed me to keep going, to know that I'm in the right direction. I've been able to sustain my lifestyle, and live my life. It's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not all glossy and shiny, and it's not without its struggles. But I'm here, and I'm still doing it. And I'm quite passionate about building something out of nothing and helping people do the same on their end.
Well, I always say, Jason, if we always knew what was going to happen, then it would erase the excitement in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Absolutely, my friend. And I also wanted to ask you about scaling a business and the relationship between that and in order to scale a business, you have to have some level of strategic intelligence. So when we talk about strategic intelligence and business, how do you think that's interconnected?
Well, I mean, everybody has a different starting point. For me, it wasn't about college. So I didn't have that, that sort of like textbook understanding of business. I never went to a business school. I hardly graduated from college, right? I have a 2-year degree. I didn't even finish. For me, it was more hands-on than anything else. And, whereas I think I ultimately probably would have benefited from having some understanding, I always believed that getting into the deep end of the water and to be able to figure out how to swim is the way to go. As long as you have the right mindset and the fortitude it takes to learn lessons in life. And I don't think it's a matter of like natural, intelligence or anything. I think it's a matter of like really wanting something to be right and figuring things out and not being so sort of like closed off to what the world actually looks like when you figure things out. So if you're an up and coming startup and you're looking to figure out what the startup life is like, I would urge you to think about it like a science experiment. You have to mix all these formulas together to get the right formula for success. The mixing is not going to be right away. And those mixtures, when you pour them together, you might see them as failures in a startup. But the reality is the more you fail, you're that much closer to finding the success, just like a science experiment. So I would look at it like that, and that's having the right mindset. And I think that I would focus my energy in just getting in and figuring it out.
Yeah, and Jason, you talked earlier to me about entrepreneurship not being sort of on a linear path. And I'm curious to build on that idea by asking you about your definition of entrepreneurial resilience, my friend. What do you think it means to have resilience as an entrepreneur?
That's a wonderful question, Kevin. So, I think there's a common misconception because we read in on the headlines of a founder that sold their company for $1 billion, or partnered with the largest company in the world, or was able to raise $500 million. And I think what enamors us as individuals is thinking like that was an easy thing to do, because it would look easy just from looking at that article and reading about all the great things that these people have done, or the cover of, one of these entrepreneurial magazines. And, but the reality is it's much different than that when you speak to every person who has had some level of success. In the story of success, you will never find a founder that just got lucky. I have never found, out of the thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs I met in my career, there's always a story where things don't go right. And when things don't go right, you find out how much you want to actually do this. The universe doesn't give you anything for free, especially when it comes to building a business that doesn't exist. It is very hard and it is very challenging. And you have to know that now before hopping into it. You have to be ready for it, and the universe is going to make you pay. It's going to look you in the face, and it's going to have you question everything you've ever done in your life up to this point. And you're going to have to answer into the universe's face whether or not you want to do this. And to walk through that door is never going to be easy.
Yeah, and Jason, I'm curious, as we go into the new year, my friend, how do you think we can redefine the way that consumers both look at the consumer experience, and for the business person, how do you think we can redefine debt relief? Because I know that's a big reason why you started Relief in the first place. So you can take that two-part question any way you wish, my friend.
Sure, Kevin. So, debt relief stinks right now. Like, if you get into debt and you look for help, it is very hard. You get on the phone with these people, they try to sell you into these programs. They're very expensive. They're scary. You have to do research on whether or not they're going to steal your money. And if you try to get help on your own by calling up your credit card companies, a lot of times you're dealing with a call center and they bounce you around through this stressful time to an unlimited capacity. I was showing this to a consumer. I speak to a lot of our users. I like to reach out and get a sense of where they're at. And I called up their creditors with them to sort of walk them through what it would look like if relief didn't exist for them. And we spent about 2 hours on the phone, finally, to get to an office that said that their office just had an accident and the building had to be shut down the day before, so they couldn't speak to them for at least a month. And that was after 2 hours. That's what it looks like right now, right? With modern technology and system tools that are built with the consumer in mind, with the right people that are building them, this doesn't have to be the way it is. So we fundamentally believe that this needs to change, and Relief has changed that. We're just now growing it, right? So that's my answer to you when it comes to getting out of debt and seeking relief. Now, when it comes to consumer finance and changing your ways, there's a really great book. It's called The Psychology of Money. If anybody is not only in debt or about to learn about how to take care of money, I urge them to read this book. It's an extremely valuable lesson on the type of psychology, that the mindset that you want to have when it comes to managing your money. And it's very simple, it's very straightforward, and I would urge everybody to read it.
Yeah, and Jason, I'm curious to ask you about, inflation and fluctuating inflation and how market conditions can really affect an entrepreneurial or a business's ability to remain sustainable. What are your thoughts there?
Well, there's a question I think in there also, Kevin, and about consumers and what inflation has done to consumers. Because, short note, the byproduct of hyperinflation has caused people to put everyday life expenses on their credit cards. And that, to me, the data overwhelmingly supports that credit card debt has significantly gone up as a result of that, which in turn also the byproduct of that is also delinquency rates going up. And that's for consumers. For businesses, it has a systemic effect on if you're going to raise capital. I mean, the venture capital market has completely shifted from what it was a few years ago. And many people say that there was a lot of, bullish, over optimistic, and I'm being very nice, the investments that have been made over the past, 10, 20 years. And the venture market has turned as interest rates have gone up because now, investors that invest in venture funds as an asset class have alternative methods to park their money where they make a return and it's not just 0%. So that makes it a little bit more difficult for an entrepreneur to raise capital. But for me, that's table stakes. You have, if you really believe and that your business needs to exist, it's up to you as a founder to get through all of these different economic states to get to where you have to go. And if part of that is raising money, it's your job to figure that out.
Yeah, and you bring in sort of the idea of the internal motivation of an entrepreneur. And Jason, I'm curious to ask you, for anyone thinking about launching a new business or a first-time entrepreneur or someone who's been in the game for a while, I'm curious to ask you about, for anyone who wants to start a business as an entrepreneur, what are three critical questions that should ask themselves before launching that business? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I guess the first thing is like you have to really know what you're getting into, and it can't just be about the money. Because most entrepreneurs, if you're building something out of nothing, you're not going to make money right away. So there has to be something else that drives you. And along with that, you're going to need to have access to resources in order to survive through that time. So you have to understand, where are you going to get those resources? There's a lot of folks out there that work a job until they're able to have the type of business they want to build on their own kick in, where it could take over the income so they can live a life that they become accustomed to. But whatever that looks like for you, you have to prepare ahead. The second thing that I would say is the first thing, if you want to take your idea from an idea to reality, is I would really work on the vision and mission of the company. And the vision and mission of the company are not just like branding exercises. They're a deep, holistic look on what you're building and what the future would look like as you build, and how do you get there. The reason why it's so important to have a clear mission and vision is because chances are you're going to need other people involved with this business. If you're going to sell to anybody else, right, you're going to need their money. You got to create value. So the vision and mission could bring in sales. If you need partners to execute where you're not alone, the vision and mission could show potential partners that they should be part of this. They could agree on the vision and mission. And also, if you're looking for investment, investors are going to want to know, what's the vision and the mission of the business so I could be a part of this and give you money and feel strongly enough. So I would really lock down all of those things and know that they exist before diving in wholeheartedly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice, my friend. And, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, Jason, is because I know that you believe that building financial legacies is important, and building sustainable wealth and growth is important. So tell me, my friend, what do you think it means to build an empowerment legacy when it comes to financial security, my friend. So, what does building a financial legacy mean to you?
Um, I'm not, Kevin, I'm not a financial guru. You see all these TikTok, characters and influencers trying to tell you what to do and how to think about it. For me, it really comes down to using math as your friend. Albert Einstein said the most powerful force in human nature is compounding interest. And that could either be used against you, i.e., using credit cards and paying for things that you can't afford to pay cash over time, or that could be used to your benefit by putting money into some compounding account where your money grows. I would work on quality of life, making sure you're happy, knowing that money doesn't come from, money can't buy you happiness. So find something that you're completely passionate about, whether that's working on a vision and mission that already exists or building your own. And then understanding that, it's not just about the chase of paper. It's about, if you're right, what can you change? Both internally at a company that you start or working for a company. Everybody has the opportunity to make positive change. I like to focus on those elements in life. And I think that as a byproduct of that, you start to create wealth, both financially and a type of wealth that we don't talk about enough, which is happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I was asked the other day by another podcast host, how do I create sort of an inclusive future for everyone? Because I was born with cerebral palsy, my friend, and I spend a great deal of time talking to businesses about the importance of hiring folks with disabilities. And yeah, one of the questions I was asked on the podcast is, how do I think we can create more prosperity for folks with disabilities? And my answer was to find a way to turn whatever their passion and purpose is into a business or a path towards entrepreneurship. So I'm curious to ask you, with your 2 decades of experience in the field, my friend, how do you think entrepreneurship could be an ally for individuals with disabilities? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that I believe I believe that you should have other people. I think you should have people from all walks of life that are part of your team. And I think that you need to understand perspective so that you could build something. If you want to grow something for the masses, you're going to need to sort of like understand how to touch those masses. And I fundamentally believe in two things when it comes to what I'm sort of like talking about right now. One is that it's great to have other people in a room that have another mindset from where they come from, so you can learn from that and you could build together. The second thing is that you can't figure everything out on your own, right? Everybody thinks that they can, but like, you have strengths and you have weaknesses. So what could be other person's weaknesses, you can make up for, and what could be your weaknesses, you can find people out there that can make up for that. And I think that is the power of diversity. I think diversity has been used on these political spectrums and these political, sort of like, it's been used as a talking point. But I believe in the true nature of diversity, which is having different people in the room so that you all have these different perspectives. I also think that if you have superpowers, that you should be giving of these superpowers to both the business that you're representing and the team and the friendships that you have around you, as well as intake people's superpowers with you. And when you can create this environment, you can start to share your truths and you could share how you really feel about things. When you could do that, you could start to admit to each other, damn, you're really good at that. I'm not. I'd love you to be here with me because we'd be more powerful together. And I'd be like, well, you're not good at that. And I am. So let's do this together so we can move forward as a force. No matter where you're from, no matter what your background is, your race, your sexual orientation, whatever. It's just another way of life. It's just another way of viewing at things. I think we spend too much time creating walls and distancing each other, especially today, where everybody wants to label things. You know, Kevin, I could tell you right away when you reached out to me to do this podcast, you have a serious set of strengths that I would want around me, right? And I could be, if we develop an authentic relationship enough, I could start talking to you about my vulnerabilities and my weaknesses. That's true humanity. And you can come and be like, well, I could do that. And I could say the same thing for you. Like, what are some of your weaknesses? No matter what you're facing, no matter what challenges you're facing, I think that we need to support each other more, get rid of all these walls that we're creating, distancing each other based on all these isms that exist, and we can start to build things together. And I think entrepreneurship is a great foundation to do that with.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I've got two questions left for you. And the first, my friend, is, I believe to have any shot at sustaining yourself as an entrepreneur in business or at work. But my friend, the first key, in my estimation, is building strong relationships, my friend, because I believe that relationship building and networking is the heartbeat to business, my friend. So I'm curious to ask you, what do you think is the key to creating great business relationships?
Kevin, I think it's a great question. I think you have to be extremely authentic. I think that I know that like we want to make money and like you want to, do business and get things done. But I think that you should drop like what you want out of the equation a little bit and focus on the value that you can create together. And when I do that, I meet the best people. And over the last, 25 years, some of the most unbelievable relationships have started from a level of just being authentic. I also think that you have to be very transparent. You should tell them exactly how you're feeling, obviously in the most respectful way possible. But I think that backbone is a foundation of authenticity. You have to be your true self. If you're not going to be your true self, you're not going to have true relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jason, my final question for you has to do with your own legacy, my friend. So if I threw you a lifetime achievement party and I asked one of your best friends or one of your family members to give a toast about you, my friend, what do you think you would want them to say? And how do you want your legacy to be defined, both from a personal and a professional perspective?
Kevin, that's a great question. I haven't really thought about that, like in that view. I would just have to say that I want to leave this world making my time here has created a better environment, a positive impact for people, whether that's, through relief or through mentoring and, helping founders. Ultimately want to just leave this earth knowing that I made a nice dent in it.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And, Jason, tell me, if people want to get connected with you personally or relief, my friend, what's the best way they can do that?
So hit me up, anytime. As you know, Kevin, I was very responsive to you. I love answering questions and helping people. So feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. It's at Jason Saltzman. On Twitter, it's at Saltzman Jason. Either platform, feel free to DM me. I love speaking to people. For Relief, it's relief.app currently. And it's available on iOS and in the Apple Store and Android in the Google in the Google Play Store.
Well, fabulous, my friend. I want to thank you for your commitment to diversifying the field of entrepreneurship and engaging in conversation with me this afternoon. It's most appreciated. Appreciate it, my friend, and I want to thank you for being here today.
Anytime, Kevin. I want a couple things. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here with you. You've been great to speak to, and I want you to have a wonderful and safe holiday for you and your family. And anytime you want to follow up, I would love to have another conversation with you in the future.